What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the Open Great League once again, and the team we're going to take a look at today is WORMADAM, Sandy, Blastoise, and Bellibolt. Now, of course, the main focus of today's video is going to be WORMADAM Sandy because literally no one has ever seen this Pokemon in Pokemon Go PvP, and that's for good reason. Its stats are okay, but its moveset is pretty bad, and its typing is unique at best. But that is why I wanted to take a look at today. Its typing is really interesting. It is a bug ground, which means it walls the likes of things like Clodsire, which has Sludge Bomb, which is resisted on ground, and Earthquake, which is resisted by bug. It walls Stunfisk, which will resist Mud Bomb and Discharge. And then most Mud Slappers like Marowak, Mud Slap is resistant, and Rock Slide is only neutral because it's super effective on bug but resistant on ground. So it's kind of an interesting Pokemon. It's a ground that beats other grounds, almost like kind of like a Gligar, but a little bit bulkier and a lot more fun because no one knows what this Pokemon is. So without further ado, let's hop into these battles. Alright, into the first match, we've got WORMADAM into Empoleon. Now this is a pretty tough lead because Bug Bite is resisted. However, I'm going to stay in this matchup because I do not have a good answer, and I'm going to go for the catch onto my onto my Blastoise, sorry, where the Empoleon's Hydro Cannon is resisted. In comes an Altaria, kind of a bold save switch, assuming that I do not have the Ice Beam here, but the opponent does throw up before I get to a charge move. I will let this go knowing that I can't live a Sky Attack, and now I can land a Skull Bash. Skull Bash will hit for big neutral damage, but it won't be enough to knock out, and unfortunately we do not grab that shield. That said, the opponent has enough energy for another Sky Attack, so in comes the Bellibolt to absorb this energy and get an energy lead so that I can hit the Empoleon for super effective damage later on. They will go for the Flamethrower. Now I'm going to pivot back into the WORMADAM, now with an energy lead, and now I have super effective Stab Bulldoze. Now Bulldoze isn't a very good move, and it's going to do a lot of damage here, and that's just because it's super effective, it's Stab, and it's not on the bulkiest Pokemon in the world. Unfortunately, I'm unable to get the full Bug Bite farm down as Bug Bite is resisted, so I'm forced to go for yet another Bulldoze, but the opponent shields their Empoleon on 1 HP. So that leads me to believe that whatever is in the back is weak to the WORMADAM. So I'm going to put up a shield. It's a Malamar, which is taking double super effective damage from the Bug Bites. I go for the catch onto my Bellibolt, and we get it, but the opponent makes a really nice play. They go for the undercharge of the foul play. That allows me to get to the charge move, but I think by boosting my defense here, I might give my opponent a perfect farm down. They're going to get the full sideway farm down before I can get the second match farm down. They're going to come out with a move loaded. Can WORMADAM hold on from a shadow foul play? No, it cannot, and unfortunately, we are going to just barely end up losing that game. All of my opponent's Pokemon were on literally 1 HP, but we just couldn't get it. But into the next match, picking up a good lead where Bug Bite is super effective. The opponent is going to pivot into a Wigglytuff, and I actually don't have a great answer to Wigglytuff on this team. So I'm going to come in with Blastoise because Blastoise at least resists the Icy Wind. So the opponent is forced to go for Swifts in this matchup and not lower my attack. That said, I'm going to farm up to the back-to-back Hydro Cannons. Now I'm going to connect with Hydro Cannon number 2, and that Hydro Cannon is going to land. But now here comes Hydro Cannon number 2. That was Hydro Cannon number 1. Hydro Cannon number 2 does end up grabbing a shield for my opponent, so it looks like they are going to match shields, and then they end up playing the TMB tie. They're not really in a range where either of my Pokemon can really farm it down because Bug Bite and Sucker Punch are both resisted. So I'm either going to pick up the knockout or grab a final shield here. And once I grab that final shield, I'm just going to let my Blastoise go down, come in with the Bellibolt to absorb this energy, and then just look for a full resisted Sucker Punch farm down, knowing that my energy could be useful. But in the back is a Shadow Steelix. So my opponent is actually core broken by the Sandy WORMADAM, believe it or not, because Steelix has double resisted Thunderfangs here, and Mightyena takes super effective damage from both Bug Bite and Bug Buzz. So my opponent is in a pretty awkward situation, especially because it is the zero shield scenario. We can very comfortably live 2 Psychic Fangs here, so I'm just going to have to let both of these go. I'm going to get outpaced either way, so letting both of them go. They end up going for the catch on the Wigglytuff. I bank all of that energy. I have a Bug Buzz loaded and ready to go. What's going to come back into the Bellibolt is going to be the Steelix. Yes, it is, but I can sucker punch them down into a range where the parabolic charge will KO. So I'm going to throw on the CMP tie, winning CMP. Parabolic charge from this range, even though it's double resisted, picks up the knockout. In comes Mighty Ina. I'm going to commit to the Zap Cannon. This either forces the opponent to throw their energy, or I would get to the Zap Cannon and win. So by forcing them to throw their energy, I'm going to come out with a charge move loaded, and they're not at the back-to-back charge moves, which means a super effective Bug Buzz completely knocks out the Mighty Ina, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, picking up a bad lead, we've got Wormadam into Scizor. So going to pivot into the Belly Bolt here, hoping that my opponent has two water type Pokemon in the back, and therefore is kind of stuck in a matchup where bullet punches are resisted. But in comes a Corsola, so maybe my opponent running the Corsola Azu backline. And Belly Bolt, they just do not have a good answer for. After they connect with that Night Slash, they do come in with the Corsola, and they end up committing the shield on the Zap Cannon. It is on the CMP tie somehow, so I will just let this go, and now I'm just going to come in with the Blastoise, look to connect with a Hydro Cannon to knock out the Corsola, but I believe Corsola should be able to hang on from this range, as Corsola is extremely bulky. Hydro Cannon puts them into the red health range, but it's not enough to knock out. But now I'm just going to look for the full farm down, because if I can get a farm down here, I can be in a pretty good position. But my opponent has other plans. Back in comes the Scizor. I'm going to go for the Hydro Cannon because now I'm going to outpace the opponent because they threw energy on my Belly Bolt. And once I grab that final shield, in comes Wormadam. Because if I'm predicting it's the Azu in the back, I need my Blastoise for later in this game. So I'm going to absorb all this energy here. I know I can live 2 Night Slashes, so I'm going to let both of them go, completely sacrifice the Wormadam, and then pick up the knockout at the last second with a Bulldoze to minimize farm for my opponent in the back. They do still have, of course, that low HP Corsola and whatever is in the back, and it's not the Azu, it's an Altaria instead. The question is this a range where Blastoise can win this game? They do let me get to the Skull Bash here, which is really nice because Skull Bash will hit for big neutral damage and it will raise my defense, and with a shield left in play, I would look to be in a pretty good position. However, I'm deep in the red. The opponent has a lot of energy here. I basically just have to watch for the catch here. So I'm going to go for 1. I watch for the catch. The opponent goes for it, but the opponent is going to get a farm down, but fortunately I make it to the back-to-back Hydro Cannons before they get there. Hydro Cannon number 1 picks the knockout on the 1 HP Corsola. We come out with a Hydro Cannon loaded for the Altaria as well. Is Altaria in Hydro Cannon range? Yes, they are. We win CMP, and we do end up taking that win. Into the next match, picking up a good lead, we've got Wormadam Sandy into Marowak, and the opponent is staying in. They clearly have never seen this Pokemon before. They end up going for a catch onto Dugong, but Dugong will be answered with Blastoise. Blastoise has a fantastic matchup here because Rollout is super effective, Skull Bash is neutral, but it raises your defense, so you can actually take 2 drill runs very comfortably, and then you can just look to go for the full Rollout farm down, as you're going to see, before they're able to make it to another charge move, which is absolutely incredible. They will go for back-to-back drill runs here, but watch this. 1 rollout, 2 rollout, 3 rollout, 4 rollout, 5 rollouts. We get the absolute perfect farm down, coming out with back-to-back Hydro Cannons loaded. This forces my opponent to throw on the CMP tie so that I don't get both of my charge moves. They end up committing the shield on the first as well, even though they're going to be stuck aligned to the Wormadam, and we are in a fantastic position here. They do go for the Bone Club. In comes Wormadam. I'm expecting that my opponent is going to commit a shield here, so I will go for the Bulldoze bait, and the Bulldoze bait does prove successful as the opponent does put up their final shield, and we get the defense fall, which is really nice. They are throwing energy here. Even if it's a bait, I will commit the shield because I should be able to outpace with my residual energy, and in the back is a Bastiodon, which is going to take double super effective damage from the Bulldoze, and now in comes Belly Bolt. Belly Bolt just has a very neutral matchup here, and we can survive any one charge move. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to farm up to a Zap Cannon. I may even farm over 100 energy. What I'm going to do is force my opponent to get me as low as possible so that they get as little farm as they possibly can on their Marowak. So I throw at the very last second, farming way over 100 energy, connecting with the Zap Cannon and picking up the knockout. We also get a Sucker Punch through. Back in comes the Marowak, but Marowak, it does not have the energy to make 2 Rock Slides, so they will resign the match, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, picking up another bad lead, Wormadam into the Scizor, going to pivot into the Belly Bolt as we usually do. Usually Belly Bolt is not the safe switch for this team. However, when you see a Shadow Scizor on the lead, I think Belly Bolt makes more sense because of that Corsola Azu line that you are so readily seeing. That said, this opponent has a totally different team. They have a Carbink in the back, which is not uncommon behind a Scizor, but it does put us in a pretty difficult situation because Fairy, of course, resisting the sucker punches, and we're unable to make it to back-to-back zap cannons, which means we have to just settle for a parabolic charge, and that does put them into the red health range, but it's not enough to pick up the knockout or flip switch. That said, I can now come in with Wormadam, look for the farm down, but the opponent instead pivots into the Azumarill, hoping that their energy is going to be more useful later on. But now, because they've pivoted into their Azumarill, we have a fantastic matchup with the Blastoise, and we can start boosting our defense with these Skull Bashes here. Skull Bash, number 1, does connect, putting the opponent into the yellow health range. They end up going for a Hydro Pump, so maybe this is a rare Ice Beam player, Ice Beam Hydro Pump Azumarill, where they are completely walled, which would be absolutely incredible, because this becomes an even better matchup if so. We end up sniping with a Bug Bite. They lose all of that energy, and now Blastoise is very healthy in the back. Back in comes the Scizor, but Scizor actually going to get outpaced here. We are able to make it to a Bulldoze because of our residual energy before the opponent is able to make it to either a Night Slash or a Trailblaze. That said, the opponent is only going to get to one final charge move here, so I am going to put up a shield and then just look for a full Bug Bite farm down. Back in comes the Carbank. Carbank will make it to one final charge move, so I will put up a shield. Rock Slide connects, grabbing the final shield. Just going to look to farm it down, and if the opponent throws their energy, this means they will get outpaced. So here comes the Rock Slide. It's unable to pick up the knockout. I can now just look for the full rollout farm down, make it to back-to-back charge moves, or actually the opponent is at 1 HP. So all we have to do is survive the Night Slash. Can we survive it from this range? Yes, we can on 1 HP. The rollout does pick up the knockout on the Scizor, and we are able to take that win. Into next match, picking up another decent lead. Wormadam into Gastron. Of course, Mud Slap is resisted in this matchup. However, they do have super effective Water Pulse this season, so I end up going for the catch onto my Blastoise, but I'm unsuccessful. However, the opponent decides to throw energy either way, so they are going to connect with a Body Slam here before they pivot. But no, instead they're going to stay in this matchup, but now they're going to be hit with a Hydro Cannon. That puts them into the red health range. Are they just going to start spamming off these Body Slams and hope to win switch advantage in this matchup just on here? Do they have another answer to Wormadam Trash in the back? That is what I'm wondering. They either don't have a good answer to Blastoise in the back, or they have another good answer to Wormadam in the back. We're unable to know at this point, but we are just going to go for the full Bug Bite farm down. In the back is a Fearow, so they had two good answers, but their backline is Fearow plus Scizor, and guess what core breaks Fearow plus Scizor? That's right, it's Belly Bolt, resisting the bullet punches, boosting our defense with the parabolic charge, and we have super effective coverage into the Fearow. Peck and Drill Peck are resisted, forcing the opponent to go for Drill Run, and you're going to find out that's exactly what the opponent is going to do. So I will just look to commit to the 2 shield farm down, come out with loads of energy to threaten this Fearow, and we do end up getting that farm down. Back in comes the Fearow, going to instantly boost my defense, hoping that I can survive a Drill Run after this, but I am not confident I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw farm up 1 short, getting the catch on the Drill Run onto my Wormadam where it is resisted, and I'm not sure that 1 Bug Buzz would be enough to knock out. So I'm actually going to go for a Bulldoze first, hoping to fish for that defense drop. We do not get it, but the opponent has to commit to a farm down because I'm so close to energy here. They need to come out with a charge move loaded, and unfortunately they cannot do that because we make it to the Bug Buzz. Bug Buzz knocks out the Fearow from the sky, and we are able to take that win. Into next match, we've got Wormadam into another Marowak, so this is another fantastic lead. This opponent is also staying in, so many people core broken by Wormadam Sandy at Legend Elo, which is so funny to me. They are going to go for the Rock Slide that hits for decent neutral damage, and then in comes Fortress. Now, I actually don't have a great response to Fortress on this team, so I decided to just come in with Belly Bolt. Because, you know, Belly Bolt can absorb this energy, and we can look to connect with a Zap Cannon to pick up the knockout, but I think my opponent's going to try and fight for switch here, so I'm going to go for a Parabolic Charge Bait. Didn't even make it to the Zap Cannon, but the opponent might have thought their counts were off. That allows me to get to a second Parabolic Charge, and that will put them into a range where I can roll out, farm them down, and that is exactly what I need, because if I'm going to lose switch here, I'm going to need energy on my Blastoise to threaten that Marowak on the lead, but the opponent has other plans. Back in comes the Marowak. This time I'm full setting the Bug Buzz because we already have a shield advantage, so the opponent will end up letting that go, and once again in the back is a Bastiodon. So we've seen this core before of the Marowak plus Bastiodon, extremely weak to water type fast moves, but unfortunately, there's not that many in this game. That said, all we have to do here is make it to basically 3 Hydro Cannons, because 1 Hydro Cannon will not be enough to knock out, and my opponent knows this, so they can just let this go. And now all I have to do is make it to 2 more, because they do have a shield, and I have to watch for a catch. So that Fortress probably going to go for a catch here at some point, which is why you see me over farming. There they go for it, but they're actually going to get the Bug Bite farm down before I'm able to get the rollout farm down. This forced me to throw my energy at 100 energy. Can I make it to the back-to-back Hydro Cannons? Yes, I can, but I think we're not going to survive that final smackdown. If we lived that final smackdown on 1 HP, we would win this game, but unfortunately we do not, so we are going to take that loss. Into potentially the final match of the video, picking up a fantastic lead. We got Wormadam into Malamar, and the opponent is going to save switch into Clodsire, so they're completely core broken by the Wormadam. Clodsire is completely walled in that matchup. Both Sludge Bomb and Earthquake are resisted, and Malamar doesn't have a good matchup either, because both Bug Bite and Bug Buzz are double super effective damage and would hit for massive super effective damage. So I'm going to come in with my Blastoise here, knowing that I will be able to outpace the Clodsire. I will end up throwing on alignment here in order to outpace, because that forces my opponent to make the first shielding decision, and they decide to let that go, which is fantastic, because this means I keep alignment. This forces them to throw their energy on the Blastoise as well. We do not hold on, but that's okay, because in comes the Wormadam, and in the back is a Shadow Talonflame. Now, Shadow Talonflame is a little bit scarier than the normal Talonflame, because these Incinerates really do add up, and because I haven't boosted my defense yet, they've already got us pretty much into the yellow health range. So I'm gonna start spamming out these I can't even think of the word, but just trying to boost my defense here, and just gonna double shield through this matchup, because that's the only way I can get rid of this Talonflame. Everything on the Wormadam is resisted. Bulldoze is single resisted. Bug Buzz is double resisted. So spamming out these parabolic charges, we do grab that final shield. The opponent banks a charge move. They pivot back into the Malamar, but I do not fall for it, and I do not throw my energy. I save that energy for later. In comes Wormadam. We can easily absorb the energy here, and because I'm going to come out with a charge move loaded, even though it's double resisted, the opponent is going to be forced to throw energy because they're so deep into the red, and my opponent does not have the back-to-back charge move. So Fly does pick up the knockout, but we can get the Sucker Punch farm down, and we are able to take that win. So yeah, that is Wormadam Sandy Cloak in the Open Great League, a Pokemon I was hoping that none of my opponents had ever seen before, and its typing is so unique that no one knows what to do against it. You saw those Marowaks staying in, they were completely at a loss. Even the Bastiodons don't have a fantastic matchup there, because double super effective Bulldoze hits pretty hard, and you know what, Smackdown is only neutral. Covering, of course, the Wormadam's weaknesses with Blastoise is fantastic, and same with Bully Bolt. They both cover Wormadam's weaknesses very well, and you kind of saw how I played out the different difficult leads, and you can just kind of replicate that if you really want to run this Pokemon. I will say definitely only run this Pokemon if you're looking for fun and not for climbing. It's definitely not a climbing Pokemon. You're not going to hit Legend with this Pokemon, because it is not meta, and it's not meta for a reason. It's very slow pacing. But you know what? If it gets a move update in the future, it could be good. So that's going to be it for me from this video. I do want to say thank you to the expert trainer members on this channel: Benny Hemlock, Dr. Mustache, Eliana, Perry G, Blue Nation, Peter Rushworth, R.A. Wright 504, Chompus Clips, and Sons of Code, as well as an extra special thank you to the Legend Trainer members on this channel: Andrew Bitten, Musaju, Noodleman, Speedster, Estros, Fast Eddie Boss, and CD Slaskos. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace!